to keep showing up to impossible battles, trusting that it is our commitment to faithfulness and not our obsession with results that will bring your shalom. Grant us the vulnerability to risk loving our difficult and complicated neighbors, rejecting the lie that some people are made more in the image of God than others. Grant us the humility of a decentered but beloved self as we continue to take the single step that is in front of us. Lord, keep us from becoming what we're called to transform. Protect us from using the empire's violence in our words, in our theology, in our activism, and in our politics. For you are a kingdom of peace. Keep our anger from becoming meanness. Keep our sorrow from collapsing into self-pity. Keep our hearts soft enough to keep breaking. Keep our outrage turned toward justice, not cruelty. Remind us all that every bit of it is for love, and keep us fiercely kind. And I just invite you all to take a deep breath, to breathe in God's love for yourself, and breathe out God's love for the world. To breathe in peace for yourself, breathe out peace for the world. To breathe in hope for yourself and breathe out hope for the world. Gracious Lord, be with us in this meeting tonight. May we be inspired by the members of JONAH and the speakers that we hear. May we be challenged and encouraged. Amen.
Welcome everyone to JONAH's 14th annual celebration, Better Together. I'm Lynn Buskey, the JONAH organizer, and no matter who you are or what you believe or how you got here, thank you for being here. We are so glad you're here and appreciate you dealing with Zoom so that we can celebrate. And celebrate we will, because there's so much to celebrate. We are better together, and it is only by connecting with each other and being true to ourselves, with God's blessing, whomever God is to you, we can create a community that works for everyone and continue to instill hope in those around us. I want to take a moment of gratitude to RCU for sponsoring this event. I'm going to share with you our agenda for the evening, and after I share my screen, I will also put it in the chat so you can find it at any time. So just briefly for your FYI, after this, we're gonna have a song, and then our keynote speaker, who I can't wait to talk to you about, a poem, some breakout groups, our task force reports with our auction announcements in between there, another poem, and then volunteer leader recognition, and our yearbook release and call to action, ending with our candle ceremony and our closing song. I will put that in the chat in a moment. But first, we thought we would start with a little bit of entertainment and some continued centering. We wanted to open with the song by Carrie Newcomer, who's coming to Eau Claire for JONAH in November, and you'll hear a little more about that later, because it's been a year or so of just a tough year, and justice work is not easy either, and sometimes can feel a bit like we're running in place. People are still experiencing oppression and fight for survival on all of our issues here locally as well as everywhere. And the pandemic is still a force and has generated mental health as a serious struggle for many right now. And it's in times like this that we must lean in towards the light, which is the title of this song by Carrie Newcomer. The lyrics will be on the screen, so you can sing along if you like. You are muted, so feel free to sing as boldly as you please. And I think you'll find this song will set a strong and pleasant tone for our evening together as we think about social justice work. So lean in towards the light. It makes a difference. It really does.
Winter is the oldest season, but quietly beneath the snow, seeds are stretching out and reaching, faithful as the morning glow. Carry nothing but what you must. Lean in toward the light. Let it go, shake off the dust. Lean in toward the light. Today is now, tomorrow beckons. Lean in toward the light. Keep practicing resurrection. Lean in toward the light. Of this world will say there's no hope, why try anyway? Every kindness, large or slight, shifts the balance toward the light. The water's wide and open wide. Lean in toward the light. And don't just walk when you can fly. Justice seems in short supply. Lean in toward the light. Let beauty be our truest guide. Lean in toward the light. This world will say there's no hope, why try anyway? Every kindness, large or slight, shifts the balance toward the light. The prayer I pray at eventide, all left undone be put aside. When forgiveness is hard to find, lean in toward the light. Help me at least to be kind. Lean in toward the light. Lean in toward the light. Lean in toward the light.
And now I am pleased to introduce our speaker for this afternoon, Nanette Massey. Earlier this year, the JONAH book group met to discuss the book White Fragility. Nanette heard about it through Facebook and attended the book group. She then reached out to me wondering if our organization would like her support in working on that material, and I suggest her speaking at an annual event, and here she is. She is a writer and workshop leader currently living in Buffalo, New York, who in recent years has felt called to help white people in our society who want desperately to start talking across lines about race in an informed and respectful way, but just aren't sure how. I'd like to thank her for contacting me, as we are so blessed to have share with us her wisdom as we all grow towards inclusivity and leave behind past harmful mindsets. So please welcome with me, Nanette.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. All right. When Lynn and I first talked about this, she asked me if I wanted to speak, if I'd be willing to speak at this event. And I said, sure. And I wasn't really paying too much attention. It's only last week that I realized I'm the keynote speaker. I thought there was going to be a panel of speakers. So now all of a sudden I feel so much pressure to be brilliant. At any rate, Nanette Massey, I am in Buffalo, New York. I am originally from Buffalo, New York. I lived in Atlanta for 25 years and I came back here to Buffalo in 2017. My mother left me some property and it was my intent to come here, sell the house and get the heck out of here before the first snow. But it just worked out that it was better for me to just stay here and keep the house. I tell people that's my mother still running my life from the grave. So they find a way, don't they? At any rate, I was doing some freelance writing, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with the book, A Course in Miracles. And okay, and I always imagined that was what I wanted to write and talk about. I wanted to be the next Marianne Williamson, talking about A Course in Miracles. In 2008, Obama's run for the presidency showed me that let me back up. I grew up in the middle school busing in my town in the 70s. So I was bused across town to mostly white schools. And I had no idea that this was a big deal. I had no idea that this was a huge national experiment and the whole country was holding its breath to see how this was going. I was just, it was just like, okay, more people to talk about Barbies with, I had no idea. So, and I was learning about the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s in history class. So, like I said, it was the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, when you're, 8, 9, 10 years old, seems as far back as Washington crossing the Delaware. So I too learned the same thing that white people were learning, that Black people were slaves. Lincoln came along and freed all the slaves because he was a neat guy. Black people did nothing up until 1950 something. And then Martin Luther King died and for all our sins and everything's equal now. So I understand, I was learning that too. It wasn't until, after college that I started doing my own learning and such, that I learned otherwise. So I understand that's kind of how white people understand it too. And I have a particular empathy for that. And I have a particular ability to speak into that. So I lead a workshop based on Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, that I call Moving Beyond White Fragility, Honest and Effective Conversations About Race. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an excerpt from that workshop and use that today. And it's interactive. So I'm going to be asking you all a couple of questions. And if I don't get some participation, this is going to be a really long 20 minutes, okay? All right. So I'm going to change my screen so that I am seeing all of you. Gallery, there we go. Okay. All right. So what I need you all to do, what I want you all to do is tell me about a time that you lied. And I will start. I was in 4th grade. It was the first year they bused me to the other side of town for school. And there was a boy in class that I was crazy about. His name was Paul. And Paul had a sister named Lisa. Lisa hated me. I don't know why, but Lisa hated me. And one afternoon, she had been spreading around that she wanted to fight me. And one afternoon out on the playground, there were these 2 other girls fighting. And after that, so I was asking you all to tell me about a time that you told a lie. And I was telling you about this boy I was crazy about in 4th grade. His name was Paul. And his sister was mad at me. And I challenged his sister to a fight. And she beat the crap out of me. So I lost a fight that I started, is the moral of the story. But what I did was I managed to get into the school first. And I got the attention of a teacher. And I put on a big crying show. And I said, Lisa beat up on me, and I don't know why she doesn't like me. And I laid it on thick, and Lisa got in trouble, and I didn't. So I will need from some of you, like I said, if nobody's sharing, this is going to be really long and pointless. So somebody tell me about a time that you told a lie. Anybody. And I don't have access to everyone, so I'll need Lynn to call on people whose hands are raised or who are indicating that they'd like to speak. Anybody?
I see Susan Wolfgram does.
Okay.
Hi, Nanette, welcome.
Hi.
The first thing that comes to mind for me, which just shows how powerful these memories are, is that I was in 5th grade, 1964, 10 years old, Hampton Elementary School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was very smart at math, but teased about being smart at math ever since I can remember at that point. And I wanted to be accepted. And when Mr. Kosaris, my 5th grade teacher, was asking the math questions in class, I didn't raise my hand. I silenced myself, hiding myself. And then Mr. Kosaris talked with me after and just encouraged me to never, ever silence my voice again. And that's my story when I lied. I've lied many other times in my life, but that is the one that comes to mind. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Susan. Someone else, tell me about a time that you lied. Anybody? Somebody? Anybody?
Lou Frazee.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When I was a sophomore in high school, and I was a young man, I actually was smart enough to be advanced the grade. So I was only 13 years old when I started high school. And I was out playing at recess. And a couple of friends and I walked off the campus to a local store. Actually, it was a Walgreens. And I shoplifted. I just took a fountain pen and stuck it in my pocket. As I left, nobody caught me. So I went home and I spent the next 3 months thinking about that. So 3 months later, there was a knock on the door, and there's 2 policemen at the door. They were there to arrest me for my shoplifting 3 months earlier. And my father, who consistently told me never ever lie, was there when the police came and caught me in my lie. And I was so humiliated that I internalized that, and I have never, ever lied in my life again. I don't think. I don't recall it.
I thought you were going to say the police were there for something else, but your guilt had you blurt out about the pen right away.
Exactly what.
All right, thanks for that story. All right, next I'm going to ask you all to tell me about a time when you cheated. And I will start. And I'm crazy for telling this on where it's being recorded. But my first year at the University of Buffalo, I was taking a Psych 101 class, and it was one of those great big auditorium style classes. There were 500 students in the class, and nobody knew anybody from anybody. And it was time for the final, and I was not at all prepared for this test. I just didn't have a clue what was going on. And I mentioned it to a guy who lived in my dorm. His name was Paul. And Paul said, "Oh, I took that class last semester. I could take the exam for you." I said, "You could?" He said, "Yeah, all you do, it was the forms where you fill in with the number 2 pencil." He said, "All they do is, they don't look. They just look and make sure it's filled in. They don't look and see who it is. They just look, see it's filled in, put it in the pile, and you go." I said, "Okay, let's do it." So Paul took my Psych 101 final for me, and I passed the test and got the credit. So again, somebody tell me about a time that you cheated. Anybody? And Lynn, I can't see everybody, so if you'll moderate for me, please.
Yep, Jackie Miller said she'd share.
Okay.
Hi, Nanette, welcome. When I cheated once, I worked for 3 churches, 2 of them very small. And the larger church got this beautiful software program with everybody's database and accounting, and it was just a wonderful program. And I wanted the 2 smaller churches to have it, but they didn't have that much money. So I thought, well, I could just download, the program from the other church. And I actually asked a priest, as it's Catholic churches, I asked a priest, and he advised me not to do that. But I did it anyhow. And then I lived with such guilt about it that I was paranoid that they were going to come or something once. And so I decided to call them and tell them what I did. And it was funny because when I got on the other line, the guy, there was silence, and he goes, "Well, this is the phone call that I've never thought I'd get." He said, "Don't worry, honey." He goes, "I won't call the computer, please." That was my story.
Thanks, Jacqueline. That's a good one. It was early on, and I was working at a church, and they had all the discs for loading on all the new Word software, all the new Microsoft software. And a girlfriend of mine came to visit me there, and she asked me if she could borrow it. And I didn't know that was, highly, improper. So I said, "Sure." So I understand how you're feeling there. Someone else, give me a story about a time that you cheated.
Judy Mosley said she would share.
Okay, Judy.
I used to quite regularly, back in the old days when you took a deck of cards and arranged them on the table in front of you to play solitaire. I used to cheat at that game like crazy because I was way too lazy to ever go back to the beginning and rearrange all those cards again. And so I was actually quite glad when the computer program came out, because you didn't have to worry about all of that. And you can't really cheat at the computer game. So I like that one a lot better. I don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah. It's hard not to cheat at solitaire, isn't it? There's nobody there. you're not playing against anyone but yourself. It's hard not to cheat at solitaire. So I totally get it. One more. Someone tell me about a time when you cheated. Anybody?
Jackie Christner.
Okay.
Jackie, we need to unmute you.
Talking about games, I do crossword puzzles all the time. And I do cheat once in a while when they're very long and very hard. And I use my phone to find out the answers. And I have no regrets.
All right. So the question that I want to ask you all is Jacqueline a cheater? Is that what she is? Yes or no? Somebody give me something.
I'm seeing some head shaking.
Okay. Anybody? Tell me yes or no and tell me why.
Reverend Julie Lepp in the chat says human.
Okay. All right.
Susan has an answer.
It's a behavior, but it doesn't identify who you are as a human being from my
Okay.
perspective.
Okay. All right. And the first gentleman that was talking, I know your last name was Farsi, but I saw your wife's name, Fracy.
Lou.
Okay, Frace. What was your first name, sir?
Lou.
Lou. Is Lou a liar? Is that what he is? Yes or no? And tell me why.
Lots of head shaking.
Okay. And tell me why. Anybody?
Just have some no in the chat.
Okay.
Hi.
Tell me why he's not a liar.
This is Judy Gatlin. I have an opinion.
Okay.
He learned a valuable lesson, and none of us become the worst thing we ever did. So
Okay.
no, I think he's actually pretty lucky. He got a strong lesson to never lie again. Good for him. Thank you.
And he got it over with early in life.
Yes.
Nanette, you accidentally muted yourself.
Am I muted again? There we go.
You're good.
Okay. So here's my point. If any of you have read the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, she uses the word racist pretty unapologetically. Okay, and she uses it a lot. She talks about racist patterns. She talks about people doing racist things. She talks about people being racist. Okay. And for a lot of people, that's very off-putting. They just get stuck there. Well, I'm not a racist. I may have done or said this or that when I didn't know any different, but I'm not a racist, am I? And people get really, really stuck on that word. What I say is, for some people, wearing that label is very helpful. It helps them to always come from, okay, my automatic thinking comes from a white frame. It comes from a white lens, and that lens has a racist tint. Okay. It's just all the information that I've been fed about of people who are not white has a racist tint to it. So without thinking, my first go-to is going to be something racist. And it's important for me to acknowledge that so that I can always stay alert and looking for, where am I having automatic racist thoughts? And I have to rethink that. and be very conscious about it. So for some people that works. For other people, they hear the term racist and all they can think is, that's not me. You're not talking to me. You're not talking to me. And the conversation doesn't go anywhere else. It's just stumped there. I think of, for those of you who are familiar with the 12 steps of AA, you'll have a guy in there who hasn't had a drink in 30 years. And he still gets up at every meeting and he says, hi, I'm Frank, I'm an alcoholic. Because wearing that label keeps him humble, it keeps him honest, it keeps him away from the idea of, okay, I haven't had a drink in 30 years, I can just have this one glass of champagne at my daughter's wedding, you know? And it keeps him from thinking that he is better than the person who just stumbled into this meeting because they just got out of the drunk tank 5 minutes ago. It helps him to still identify with that person in such a way that he can be helpful. So that's important for him to still wear that label. Then you've got another guy who hasn't had a drink in 30 years, and that label just doesn't feel real for him. He's just a guy who doesn't drink. I'm just a guy who doesn't drink. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just a guy who doesn't drink. And if he hasn't had a drink in 30 years and that works for him, fine. Who are we to argue about labels? Do you see where I'm going with this? So same thing with yourselves when you're reading material having to do with race. If you've got, you're reading Cornel West, and he says the word racist and it rubs you the wrong way. If the label gets in the way, skip it. But still look for what is the meat of this person, what this person is saying, and how does it apply to me? And if wearing the label is helpful for you, it keeps you honest and it keeps you present, then fine. Same thing for other people. I'm coming to a close, I promise. Same thing for other people that we're talking to. Say we've got Uncle Blowhard at Thanksgiving dinner, and he says something ridiculous about, Black people. Instead of, Uncle Joe, you're a racist, you're a racist. You know you're a racist. And he's saying, no, I'm not. I'm just saying. But if you just stick with, okay, Uncle Joe, that thing you just said is problematic, and here's why. Instead of attacking his entire identity as a racist, you just stick with that one thing. You could probably get some movement from Uncle Joe. For example, when we all started running around saying the Wuhan flu instead of COVID-19, there's no question that the result of that was that a lot of Asian people were experiencing attacks. And that's just plain wrong. So if somebody said the Wuhan flu, we don't have to argue with them, you're a racist, you're a racist. But surely, like I said, the effect of that was that an awful lot of Asian people were suffering attacks. And that's something that if you stick with that, you might be able to get Uncle Joe to go, okay, yeah, I can see where that is a problem and I shouldn't say that. And take that little bit of a win, take that little bit of pushing the needle forward, and then let it go. Everybody enjoy your pumpkin pie. There will be plenty of Thanksgivings and Christmases and weddings from here on out for you guys to have further conversations where you can move the needle a little, move the needle a little, move the needle a little. So my point is, don't be afraid of that word. Don't be afraid of that label. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, fine. Don't run from it. And same thing, our theme here is that we are better together. So all of these people that we're dumping off of Facebook as friends because they said this, because they said that, we need those people. We need to keep talking to them and move the needle just a little bit, and let somebody else move the needle just a little bit, and let somebody else move the needle just a little bit. We're all in this together, even those hard to reach people. All right, let me close by just a plug for my website, NanetteDMassey.com. And my email address is NanetteDMassey@gmail.com. I would very much appreciate it if you would send me an email telling me what you thought about today's address. And I've got us all off time here. My apologies. And Lynn, I hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Since we're all muted, can we give applause using sign language, putting your hands like this? Thank you so much, Nanette, for working with the technological kinks and sharing your wisdom with us. I'm glad you were here. I would appreciate if you could put your email and website in the chat. I didn't want to accidentally spell something wrong.
Okay.
And feel free to stay on or leave as you need to, but thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me, of course.
So I'll be reading a poem. It's called Every Day We Get More Illegal by Juan Felipe Herrera, 1948. Yet the peach tree still rises and falls with fruit and without. Birds eat it, the sparrows fight. Our desert burns with trash and drug. It also breathes and sprouts, vines and maguey. Laws pass, laws with scientific walls, detention cells, husband with the son, the wife, and the daughter who married a citizen. They stay behind, broken, slashed, unpowdered in the apartment to deal out the day and the puzzles, another law, then another Mexican Indian spirit exile. Migration sky, the grass is mowed, then blown by a machine, sidewalks are empty, clean, and a red-shouldered hawk peers down from an abandoned wooden dome, an empty field. It is all in between the light. Every day this changes a little. Yesterday homeless and without papers. Alberto left for Denver at a Greyhound bus, he said, where they don't check you. Walking, working under the silver darkness. Walking, working with our mind, our life.
Okay, Andy, you're up.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Andy Thompson. I'm one of the two vice presidents with JONAH. We will now be moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which will be to do some breakout sessions. So this is kind of an opportunity, we're this in person, where we'd be, a chance for mingling, getting to know each other a little bit better. Given the kind of virtual circumstance we find ourselves in, we're going to instead be breaking into 4 different rooms. I have assigned those quote unquote randomly. You may notice some alphabetizing in there. It just worked out easier. I'm still figuring this feature out. My apologies. So we'll be breaking into those 4 rooms. You'll soon get an invite with information that you'll click to join if you wish to. If you want to take this time instead as a break, just don't accept the invitation to move into the breakout room, or you can move into the breakout room and later leave. Like, all of these are options. The rooms will automatically close after 15 minutes. And we'll try to send periodic reminders as we get closer, just so you know how much time is remaining. And we have 4 sets of questions, and now we'll be putting a test of my multitasking skills technically to say, there are the 4 questions, and everyone should have that now in chat, and we'll try sending those again after. Does anyone have any questions before we move into different rooms? Thank you again very much. I know Lynn is going to be ending the recording for this portion of the meeting. There we go. So again, thank you all for taking part in mandatory fun small talk. And we appreciate and hope that everyone had great conversations. We'll now be moving back to Lynn, who's going to take us into the task force reports. Thank you all again for joining us.
Yes, welcome back. Hope your conversations were happy and good, and that everyone felt they got to connect and speak. We are going to now turn to our task forces and allow them to speak on what they've been doing. And we're going to start with transit.
Thanks, Lynn. Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Quam. I'm with the JONAH Transportation Task Force. I have a short PowerPoint slideshow that I'd like to do for my report. Could you give me screen sharing privileges or make me a co-host, Lynn? I
Yes.
forgot to do that when we got on first.
I can. Let me find out. There's a long list of names here. Okay, there you go.
Okay, it'll be just 1 minute here. I'm going to bring up my screen here. Okay, is my screen showing for everybody here?
Looks good, Mark.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will get started here. Just 1 minute for the delay here. All right, well, as I mentioned, I'm Mark Quam. I'm with the JONAH Transportation Task Force, and the other person here with JONAH is Phil Swanhorse. He also serves with the Transportation Task Force. And for those of you that may not know, the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance is a local nonprofit public transportation advocacy organization. And so basically the Transportation Task Force basically works through the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance, which I'm currently president of, and Phil Swanhorse serves on the board of directors for that organization. And the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance was formed back in 2012. Some of the issues that I kind of just want to highlight, every February for about the last, 3 years now, the JONAH Transportation Task Force, we've worked in conjunction with the city of Eau Claire and their transit, and the transit does Transit Equity Day, and that basically highlights the birthday of Rosa Parks, which happened on February 4th. And so every February 4th, all around the country, transit systems honor the birthday of Rosa Parks and, you know, the significance that she contributed towards equity and riding the bus and so forth. So that is one event that we're glad to participate in. And just to kind of show you, Eau Claire Transit does set aside one open seat on each city bus to honor her, and National Transit Equity Day. And it's becoming an annual event with a lot of other transit systems. So we're glad to be a part of that. And then also what we do on the city buses in February on that day, we put a rose. And this is just one example on a city bus to let people know and honor Rosa Parks. Okay, also in honor of Rosa Parks event, the city of Eau Claire did a proclamation, and they did this this past January. And as you can see on the screen there, it's a proclamation put forth by the city, you know, recognizing that and honoring it. And I think that's a big step, because we never did anything like this with the city or the transit a few years back. So I think this is a really good step in the right direction, and it just shows the importance of making transit and equity more, you know, attainable here within the city of Eau Claire and the surrounding communities here. The other event that we did is World Earth Day on April 22nd, and the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance, we always partner with the city of Eau Claire, and on Earth Day, the city of Eau Claire and the transit offer free bus rides for Earth Day. And it's really to bring awareness about environmental issues. And as you can see on the screen there, a healthy planet is not an option, it's a necessity. So we're really glad, to at least have people get out of their car maybe for a day if they choose to do so and ride the bus at no charge. And in conjunction with Earth Day, the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance has donated this past year $600 towards free bus rides. The previous year, we donated 1,000. So that helps the city transit system recover some of their expenses. So we hope we can keep doing this on an annual basis. And I think that kind of reinforces some of the values with Jonah that we value public transportation. The next thing that I want to update you on. The city is going to be building a new bus transfer center. And before the bus transfer center, the old one closed, they had to build a temporary one. And so we have a current temporary bus transfer center located a block east of the Unitarian Universalist Church downtown. It's nothing fancy, but as you can see in the picture there are places to pull up with buses, and basically, people can still make their transfers. This bus facility will be used for about 2 years. We expect to have the new transit center completed and built, and done hopefully within 2 years. So this makeshift, it's good for about 1.5 years to 2 years. Now, the next big news I want to share with everybody here, it's the new Eau Claire Transit Center project. And this past September, on Friday, September 17th, we had our official groundbreaking ceremony for the new bus transfer center. As you can see in the top picture there, the old bus transfer center site is now gone. That's all been bulldozed and clearing the ground for the new start of the construction. And as you can see in the picture, we do have a few people. The one person in the center there is Phil Swanhorse, and he was asked to put a shovel out and help. And then we have a few other people on there that you may recognize as well. And I just wanted to let you know that we had several people, from the community involved with that active ceremony, and a good start to help us move things forward for public transportation. This is the new Eau Claire Transit Center plans. The picture on the right there, that's just kind of a visual view. You kind of see the lower level will be for transit and retail. The first 2 floors above that will be for retail and resident, or for parking, I'm sorry. Parking on the 2nd and 3rd levels. And then the top 3 floors would be residential. And there will be a mix of, affordable housing and regular housing in that residential mix. And the building, is pretty much going to sit right where the old one did. It'd be directly right across from the Unitarian Church there. And then you can kind of see some of the other building phase designs. You can kind of get a little picture on that. There are plans still being worked on to finalize the details on all the different areas of the inside of the building. And we hope to have more plans on that as they become available, but that's definitely a step in the right direction for moving forward. Again, this is kind of an aerial street view. You can kind of see on the lower picture there where the buses will come in, and each bus in the new center will have a slot where they have assigned stalls where the buses can pull in. So it isn't a lot of room to work with, but it should be adequate. And we're hopeful maybe at some point, there'll be room to expand for like intercity buses like Jefferson or Greyhound to come in at some point in the future. But as of right now, that would have to be probably over in a lot next door. We don't know yet. There's still a lot of little details to be worked out. But basically that new center, as you can see, is located along Farwell Street and between Gray and Main Street. And then just some new Eau Claire Transit Center facts. The construction should be completed sometime 2023. The city of Eau Claire has been working with Merge LLC out of Cedar Falls, Iowa, which is a private developer. And in 2018, the city of Eau Claire received a $5 million federal transportation grant, and that will cover about 80% of the project. And then the remaining expenses would be picked up, by the city of Eau Claire. And then again, the complex will host transit and retail on the first level, parking 2nd and 3rd levels, and housing on the remaining levels. And just some other Chippewa Valley transportation highlights. In the beginning of 2021, Eau Claire Transit implemented half-price bus fares. Eau Claire transit riders who experience low income would be eligible to ride the bus at half fare. And one thing that we're working with the city and CVTA and Jeremy Greger, one of our city council members, is to work at getting kindergarten through 12th grade kids a chance to ride the bus for free. Some cities actually do provide free transit for high school and middle school students. So that's something maybe down the road, hopefully we'll be able to implement that. And then the other thing I want to mention, CVTA each year purchases bus tickets for people staying at the Sojourner House so they can get to their jobs and appointments. Also, Eau Claire Transit is studying the option of transitioning over to all electric buses. And most of the transit bus fleets right now are a hybrid diesel combination, and they hope to acquire a few more by the end of 2021. And they actually are putting some infrastructure in at the moment to put electric charging infrastructure stations and places in to recharge buses. So once the transit is ready to switch over to all electric, we'll have the infrastructure in place. The other thing I would like to mention that the Bike Chippewa Valley, which is a spinoff organization from the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance, became their own separate nonprofit organization. And Bike Chippewa Valley works to promote and distribute new bike maps for the Chippewa Valley. And then they also provide Bike Valley services for different events in and around at Phoenix Park and around town. And just a brief update, the Chippewa Valley transportation highlights would be the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition. We're still moving forward to get passenger rail service restored between Eau Claire and St. Paul Union Depot. And this past summer, a engineering rail study began. That study is still being worked on at the moment, and it may be a little while before the study is complete. But once that study is complete, then we would move, to the next step of actually getting things implemented. Another little quick note: the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission was recently formed here in the Chippewa Valley in Eau Claire, and it's made up of Eau Claire County, Dunn County, and St. Croix counties, and then the cities of Eau Claire, Altoona, Menominee, New Richmond, Baldwin, and Hudson are also on that commission, and also the Rail Coalition and the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission will be represented on that commission. Basically, the Rail Commission will serve as the legal entity to move and work with the service, and we anticipate that hopefully that service will be up and hopefully running within 3 to 5 years. And just a note that Amtrak and WisDOT are planning to implement a dedicated bus shuttle service from Toma to Eau Claire, and that would connect with a additional Amtrak daily passenger train between the Twin Cities, Milwaukee, and Chicago. And again, hopefully 3 to 4 years, we'll have a dedicated bus service to Toma. And on the last page here, Eau Claire Transit is looking at implementing a new bus fare collection in the future. Further study and evaluation will continue. Also, the city of Eau Claire will continue to work on the high bridge repair. That's the old railroad bridge that had some structural support issues that they had to close. And hopefully that, will get completed in a timely manner. Eau Claire Transit is also looking at studying on-demand transit service for some areas of the city that are not currently served by a fixed bus route. And that would basically allow somebody that had a smartphone or app to allow for a small shuttle transit bus to pick them up and take them to a destination bus pickup station or shelter on a fixed route. And we think that might expand the opportunities for people to ride the bus. And finally, the CVTA does continue to work with the Wisconsin Transit Riders Alliance in Madison and also the Coalition for More Responsible Transportation, and both are statewide transportation advocacy groups. And if anyone has further questions, please feel free to contact us at Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance at gmail.com, or you can write to our PO Box 524 here in Eau Claire. And with that, I will end my presentation.
Thanks, Mark. We're gonna have a little bit of fun in between our task force reports, not that they're not fun also, but Terry, you wanna tell us what's up next?
Yes, I would. We're going to announce the winners of the silent auction bids. And before I do that, I just want people to know that if you did win a silent auction bid, you should have received an email in regards to that, along with payment options. So there's an online payment option. And if you're not comfortable with that, you're more than welcome to email me. My email address was also included in the winning bid information. So you can email me and we can talk about maybe getting a check. Just know that items will need to be paid before we can deliver them. And so we'll start right away with the first 4 winners. So the Badger Game Day basket goes to Greg Barnes. The children's book basket goes to Joanne Adams. The multicolored Coach wallet goes to Gloria Godchow, and the email database fees were paid by 4 people: Jill Christofferson, Amy Kelman, Donna Raleigh, and Leah Olson McBride. And once again, you should have received an email in regards to your winning bid. Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Terry. Ooh. Let's try that again. Thanks everyone who made bids, and thanks to the winners who are contributing toward Jonah's work. Our next task force to present will be immigration.
Hi, I'm chair of the Immigration Task Force. My name's Ray Cook, and our goals for our task force is to inform our community about immigration issues, act to change the system in the direction of fairness and compassion. We engage and empower people by building relationships. Our meeting time, and anybody is welcome to contact me. I'll try to remember to put my email in the chat. It's the 3rd Monday of the month from 4:30 to 5:45 p.m. via Zoom. Some of our highlighting some of our actions this year are we were able to partner with the city of Altoona to create the inaugural River Prairie Cultural Festival. We were able to work with the Eau Claire City County Health Department on various health initiatives, particularly related to COVID-19's effect on our local immigrant population. We continued to work with the Eau Claire Area School District on resources for the affected minority students. And one of the highlights over the past 7 years, we continue to partner with the Mexican Consulate of St. Paul to host a mobile consulate visit. This enables, this year, we served over 120 clients to help with Mexican IDs, matricular IDs, and passports. We continue to have a dialogue with the Eau Claire Police Department on local immigrant concerns. And this year, it culminated in June in an in-person story share experience that was quite powerful and held at a pavilion in Carson Park. We continue to develop and present a readers group with personal stories of immigration. And we have partnered with UW Eau Claire on various issues. And in fact, there will be a fundraiser this coming Friday and Saturday at Emmanuel Lutheran Church parking lot. And this is a fundraiser for scholarships benefiting the Latinx Student Association. So that's Friday and Saturday. Friday, it runs from 9 until 4, and Saturday from 9 until noon. We continue to partner with Amparo, accompanying migrant minors with protection, advocacy, representation, and opportunity chapters at Emmanuel Lutheran Church and Hope Lutheran Church. And we've established a partnership with Chippewa Valley Bridge Builders Asylum Seeker Sponsorship, and something that we will continue to work on. And this has really been one of our big pushes for what seems like the last 10 years, is to continue to communicate and work with local and state legislators on issues related to immigration, especially driver's cards for undocumented Wisconsinites. With that, I would like to thank everyone here for attending this evening, and any questions, please let me know. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ray. Carrie, you want to let us know who's up next?
Yeah, I sure will. So the Bon Appetito basket was won by Greg Barnes. The Genuine Pearl Jewelry Set and Purse, Amy Kelman. The Jonah T-shirt, Danny Gissing. And the Thai Orchid gift certificate by Joanne Malama.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. Our next task force to present is the Environmental Task Force.
So Lynn, are you going to kick it off with the quiz, or?
If you want me to start it that way, yep.
Okay. Well, first, I guess I can introduce myself. Sue Waits is one of the co-chairs for the Environmental Task Force. We currently meet on the first Monday of the month via Zoom at 7 p.m. And to engage everyone in some of the environmental issues that we're addressing, we put a little quiz together so everyone can participate. So Lynn, if you want to kick that off, and then I'll talk a little bit after each question.
Okay, so question number 1 is launched. Hopefully it's self-explanatory how to put your answers in. And when I see we've had enough answers, I will share the results.
Okay.
Is it working for everyone? Okay, good.
Okay, do you have the results there, Lynn?
I'm ending the poll and I will share the results. What percent of all plastic actually ends up being recycled?
Okay. And it looks like 53% of the people said 9%, and that is the correct answer. Some people in some different seminars I've been to estimated it's as low as 4%. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that really we can't recycle our way out of our plastic consumption, where a lot of people will say, well, it's not a problem because we can recycle. But pretty much all the plastic, 4 to 9% is actually recycled. And that will vary based on your trash hauler and where you live. So the Environmental Task Force, we've pretty much, we're trying to promote a choose to refuse when it comes to single-use plastic, encouraging people to find alternatives to single-use plastic where possible. So nobody can do 100%. We're just looking for maybe you use bottled water, and that's one thing that you can move towards a refillable cup, or maybe you're currently using plastic produce bags. Consider moving towards cotton produce bags and getting rid of that. So it's really the choose to refuse concept of just picking something and make that a habit, and then pick something else. So so that's one thing that the Environmental Task Force is working on, is the single-use plastics. So the next question.
Okay, here is question number 2.
And it's kind of a trick question. Most people will probably get it right. But the Environmental Task Force, we have a kind of a subcommittee, which is looking at lawn care and, trying to encourage pollinator gardens. And yeah, I figured most people would guess homeowners. So we're currently working with neighborhood associations and community groups to inform homeowners on how they can reduce their use of herbicides. So I won't really go any further with that. There's certainly a lot of education that needs to happen in that area to find alternatives. So the next question.
And there it is.
So according to EPA estimates, how much landfill waste is organic and could be composted rather than sent to the landfill? So, and the results. Okay, everyone's doing really well. So the answer is 30%. The Environmental Task Force encourages composting. It's easy to create your backyard compost, or we do have one curbside composter in the Eau Claire area, and that is earthbound, where they will collect your organic waste along with your trash recycling. So it's a matter of just putting it at the curb. But curbside composting is really, since it's only available in certain areas of Eau Claire, we're trying to encourage people to contact your trash hauler and express your interest and need for curbside collection. We're currently, as most of you are aware, the landfill is expanding, and composting is something moving into the future that we really need to take a serious look at. So our last question is on plastic bags. So at the fall festival, our task force had a booth, and we did engage people with certain questions and quizzes on plastic use. It was, and we also gave away t-shirt bags, where we made, I think we made about 300 bags from old t-shirts. So, and lots of people got that one right as well. So the average person uses about 400 bags per year. So, and again, this comes into that single-use plastic, where the average plastic bag is used, the lifespan of that plastic bag is about 12 minutes. So that means you use the bag for about 12 minutes and then it gets tossed, and it takes about 500 years for it to go away, when it doesn't actually probably go away. So and here is a picture of one of our members dressed up as what we fondly refer to as the bag monster. We walked around at the fall festival and had people guess how many bags she was wearing. She was wearing 400 bags. So again, so as the Environmental Task Force, we will continue to advocate for single-use plastic reduction, responsible herbicide and pesticide use for homeowners, and also encourage composting, whether it's curbside or backyard. So through our education, our programs, and community engagement and involvement in state and federal legislation, those are the 3 issues that we're addressing. So we encourage everyone to attend, anyone to attend one of our meetings, and whoever bid on the eco alternatives, we would love to hear your input on how you like the products. So thank you very much.
Very cool. Thank you, Sue. Terry? Terry, you're muted.
Thank you. The Coach wallet and the You Hee Hee purse, it's Greg Barnes. The token necklace, Amy Kelman. The $100 Green Oasis gift card, Greg Barnes. And both wine baskets were won by Danny Gissing.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Our next presentation will come from the Criminal Justice Task Force.
Hi, my name is Lacey Weatherholt, and I've been attending Criminal Justice Task Force meetings for the better part of this year. And the Criminal Justice Reform Task Force has started up in September of 2020 again. Our meetings are the first Tuesday of every month, 6 to 7 p.m. There have been some success that we've seen this year. The Criminal Justice Reform Task Force is dedicated to addressing the drug epidemic that we see in our community. They decided to put pressure on local stores that were selling paraphernalia that is used to use these drugs in our community. Letting these stores know that the community was taking a stand against these items being sold, they asked that the stores remove these items and stop selling them. The stores all refused, so the Criminal Justice Reform Task Force decided to seek out the help of politicians in the area and on a state level to partner together and take a hard stand against the drug epidemic in our community. The news channel did a story about our criminal justice task force taking on the stores and to help better educate the community and what is going on in the stores in the area with regards to meth and other drugs. The goal that we want to achieve is not only raising awareness, but also drawing attention to many needed resources that our community needs to help those who are struggling with addiction. We also have members that are certified and trained in peer support, and in the future hope to use this to get more education and more resources and peer support in our community. The Criminal Justice Reform Task Force is currently working with a couple organizations in the area to discuss issues around domestic abuse in our area. It's clear that this work, there is a need to partner with other organizations in the area to work towards common goals around criminal justice reform. The Criminal Justice Task Force is currently working on raising money to open a criminal justice center in the Eau Claire area to work with the organizations in the area that want to work together to help to help the people in our communities for a multitude of reasons. Some of them include anti-meth and anti-heroin, building a drug rehab in Eau Claire, stopping racism at places of work, building low-income houses for families, helping stop domestic abuse, rape, child molestation in the area, ban the box, which is removing the box on applications that says, check here if you have a felony, and helping getting peer support for people suffering from substance abuse disorders and mental health issues, and many other issues that need to be worked on. The Criminal Justice Task Force is open to those that believe in empowering others, improving our criminal justice system, and want to get involved in collaborative efforts. We're always welcoming new members, and right now we are currently seeking a chair. So if you or anybody you know has innovation, leadership, and a passion for criminal justice, please contact somebody in JONAH, Lynn, or myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. Terry.
Yep, back to me. So the Eco-Plastic Alternative Basket was Greg Barnes, the glass pitcher set, Danny Gissing, Jonah Zoom account, Ray and Sue Cook, and the 31 studio bag, Gloria Hochstein.
Thank you, Terry. The Child Poverty Task Force will present next.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm John Wagner, the chair of the Child Poverty Task Force. Our mission statement is to promote public, private, and legislative awareness of poverty and racial disparity, adverse childhood experiences, those are called ACEs, and their far-reaching impacts on society. The Child Poverty Task Force meets on the fourth Tuesday of each month. As a country, we now know a lot about child poverty. Children living in poverty have fewer opportunities and a much higher probability of growing into contributing adults, not growing into contributing adults, excuse me. Child poverty is very much in the news right now as well. And there's a lot to do at this moment in time, and here's the reason why. 23 years ago, two physicians, Vincent Felitti and Robert Anda, found that 10 adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, independently predicted a wide range of psychological and medical disorders in adulthood in a stepwise fashion. For example, ACEs were found to predict psychological conditions such as depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, drug abuse, ADHD, PTSD, suicidality, and low self-esteem. Also medical conditions, obesity, autoimmune disorders, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, nearly all sleep disorders, forms of dementia, fractures, cardiovascular disease such as heart disease and stroke, and cancer. And as you could probably guess, a shortened lifespan as well. And thirdly, risky behaviors and impaired functioning include misusing prescription drugs, smoking, precocious sexual activity, being victimized by intimate partner violence, criminality, financial or occupational challenges, memory disturbance, learning and developmental problems, and lower educational attainment. For people who have experienced at least 4 ACEs, the risk for many health problems increases 2 to 5 times, and an average of 8-year reduction in longevity results. These risks are even higher for drug dependency, Alzheimer's disease, and suicide. In fact, there's a 50% probability that a person will be either diagnosed with a clinical mental illness or incarcerated as an adult. For those who experience 6 or more ACEs, the average of about 20 years of life is lost. 20 years of life is lost. In addition to the toll of human suffering, ACEs cost the nation billions of dollars by increased healthcare costs, welfare, criminal justice, and special education costs, as well as the loss of economic productivity of the people suffering from ACEs. These huge public costs of dealing with the consequences of ACEs have led many experts to call ACEs the #1 unaddressed public health issue in America. The #1 health issue in America. So there is some good news down the pipe. This year, the federal government passed the American Rescue Plan, the ARP, which is also known as the CARES Act. This law contains many of the parts of earlier bills, at least 4 of which have been presented in Congress over the last 2 years. These earlier bills were introduced by Michael Bennet, Sherrod Brown, Mitt Romney, Tammy Baldwin, and Elizabeth Warren. And these bills have bipartisan support, which is really great. The CARES Act contains several proposals to support families, including direct payments to families with children. The payment started in July of this year, and in 1 month, in August, in 1 month, child poverty had been reduced from 20% in July to 12% in August. Direct payments to families work, but these provisions expire in December of this year. All of the pieces of the CARES Act are also part of Biden's Build Back Better plan, or the reconciliation bill that is currently being debated in Congress. The BBB would permanently reduce child poverty and provide quality early child care, similar to the universal child care bill that was passed by both houses of Congress in 1971, but vetoed by President Nixon. Today's BBB is the first significant opportunity in 50 years to permanently reduce child poverty. There is a real opportunity here. We need to do for children what the US did for elders in the 1960s. In the 1960s, the GDP for elders was raised to about, or the amount of payments to elders was raised to about 19% of the GDP. Currently, the GDP use for children is less than 2%. So compare about 19% to 2%, and you can see the difference. The 19% reduced elder poverty from 35% to just 10%. And we know that the CARES Act reduced poverty from 20% to 12%. BBB is based on the 4 bills I mentioned earlier, and studies have shown that the return on the investment in this program is much, much greater than the cost. And in any case, child poverty is not a partisan issue, it's a moral issue. So I ask everyone here that's listening to please write to Congress and support the BBB. Do everything you can to support this program. There are going to be a lot of discussions between now and December, and hopefully the final bill will include a large portion of the existing details of the earlier acts. If you'd like more information on child poverty and its consequences, or would like to join our group, please contact me, John Wagner. I will put my contact information in the chat. And thanks very much for your attention and attending tonight's presentation.
Thank you, John. Terry?
Yeah. So this year we decided to try a mystery basket. And so this year's mystery basket included a $25 Starbucks gift card, a $25 Woodman's gift card, a $25 Down to Earth gift card, along with a picnic basket, which included a 13x9 glass baking pan with a wicker basket, insulated carrying case, and a picnic water jug. And the winner of that silent auction bid is Danny Gissing. Then we have the Seasoned Hunters. Amy Kelman won that. The Trunk Organizer, Heidi Kozlowski. 1 month salary for our communications person, Paul Savides, and another month's salary for our communication person by Ray and Sue Cook.
Great, thank you. And our last task force to present for the evening is our Affordable Housing Task Force.
Thank you, Lynn. Do you have our PowerPoint? Can you put
Yes,
that up?
I
Thank
sure
you.
will.
And I'm going to let you control that, and I'll just say next slide when it's time to move on. Thank you. So today, Susan and Judy and I will tell you a little bit about JONAH's Affordable Housing Task Force. As Matthew Desmond says in his breakthrough book, Evicted, we believe housing is a human right. Next slide. The Affordable Housing Task Force has been in existence for about 3.5 years. We meet the first Thursday of every month. Currently, we are meeting virtually, but we hope to be meeting back at Grace Lutheran Church as health safety protocols allow. Next slide. Our core team, which plans agendas and meets regularly with other community leaders and stakeholders, is composed of our co-chairs, Susan Wolfgram and Judy Mosley, and yours truly. Next slide. As you can read, our mission is to facilitate culture change in Eau Claire City and County so that all stakeholders are informed about the lack of safe, good quality, affordable housing and are motivated to take actions to address it through public and private initiatives. Next slide. We work in collaboration with all affordable housing stakeholders and most importantly with those most impacted by the problem. We believe that those most affected by the problem are most able to understand the solutions. Next slide. Our three primary goals for this year and next are to continue to advocate for increased expenditure of public dollars to increase affordable housing stock. In particular, we're looking at the ARPA dollars that the city and county have been given, and we'll be advocating for amounts of dollars there for second chance housing and for the creation of a day resource center. We'll continue to work on developing the Eau Claire Tenant Landlord Resource Center, and we will continue to lead and facilitate the Day Resource Center collaboration for our unhoused community. Next slide. We believe that to increase affordable housing stock in Eau Claire, we need to encourage and develop public and private partnerships between government officials and agencies and private developers. Next slide. I pass it on to Judy.
Thank you, Paul. At the top of the screen is another quote that is from Matthew Desmond's book, Evicted, and it really has helped form some of our goals. One eviction can change the trajectory of an individual or a family's life. Multiple evictions destabilize communities. And that is the impetus behind our task force forming the Eau Claire Tenant Landlord Resource Center. Next slide. We've worked very hard over the last couple of years and will continue this year and next to collaborate with public and private partnerships to reduce barriers and increase access. An example of this is the work that we're doing with the City of Eau Claire and a local nonprofit agency, UCP, to do a landlord support program that's comprised of two parts. One is tenant classes on how to be a good tenant, and the other one is a landlord mitigation fund that helps prevent landlords from taking an economic hit when they give a person with high rental barriers a second chance. We've been awarded some grants this year that we are very, very appreciative of, and we want to make sure we give thanks to those grantors any chance we get. The Pablo Foundation awarded us $56,000 this year for the first year's operation budget of the Tenant Landlord Resource Center. The Eau Claire Community Foundation awarded us $3,000 to go toward a website for the Tenant Landlord Resource Center. And the Mahmoud Taman Foundation gave us $2,000 toward the work of the Affordable Housing Task Force. And like I said, we want to make sure that we thank those grantors, because the work that we do couldn't be done without the funding that our community has provided. One of our huge goals with the Tenant Landlord Resource Center is to prevent evictions by intervening early, long before either the tenant or the landlord has even thought about eviction. When there are first problems in that relationship, we want them to come to us, and through mediation and education, we think we can make a difference. We will be providing a tenant landlord resource bank armed with information, referral sources, and everything that a tenant or a landlord might need as they are going through this relationship. We will be providing internships so that people at the university and the Chippewa Valley Technical College can learn hands-on how to do this kind of work. And we will continue to work on education and community awareness. We are most acutely aware that most members of the general public have little understanding of the complexity of our housing issues and how we got here and how we can make a difference. Next slide. And then with that, I'm going to pass it over to Susan.
Hi, everyone. Our third goal, and on the housing spectrum, is collaborating on a day resource center for our unhoused community. I do want to read the quote from our health director, Lisa Giese, that making progress on our homeless situation in Eau Claire is going to take new approaches. That is really hard and really messy. It will take commitment and real sustained effort. Next slide. Our community has a very urgent need for a day resource center to be available for our unhoused neighbors when they leave Sojourner House from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. The continuum of care for the unhoused includes 24-hour, 7-day-a-week safe shelter. Sojourner House overnight shelter is open from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. Their expansion was approved at the Plan Commission on September 7th to accommodate social distancing. There will be no increase in the number of folks that will be housed, and there also will be some additional resources during the day. However, it is primarily an appointment-based model. The city hosted 2 stakeholder WebEx meetings on September 15th to collaborate on this need and establish a steering committee. We facilitated those meetings. One of our first action items will be to visit successful models to learn from stakeholders, such as the Beacon House in Madison, which is run by Catholic Charities. Next slide, please. I will end with another quote by Matthew Desmond, that decent, affordable housing should be a basic right for everybody in this country. And the reason is simple. Without stable shelter, everything else falls apart. Next slide. So contact us to attend a meeting. Please visit our Facebook page. And again, as we like to say in Jonah, we are better together. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Affordable Housing Task Force. Terry, do we have any final?
We do. We have 4 more winners. So the Wisconsin Maple Syrup winner was Joanne Malama. The Women's Hiking Backpack, Virginia Close. The Women's Ray-Ban Sunglasses, Greg Barnes. And the Child's Wooden Rocking Chair, Heidi Kozlowski. I also included in the chat my email information and information about payment for the online silent auction winnings. I just want to thank everyone for supporting Jonah Silent Auction. This year we were able to earn $2,089 for our silent auction items. We've also have $1,000 in ticket sales, and our yearbook ad sales this year were over $10,000. Thank you to all who support Jonah.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry, for organizing our silent auction. That's a big job. Okay, we're going to transition with a poem that Susan Wolfgram is going to read for us.
The Ballad of the Landlord by Langston Hughes, 1940. Landlord, landlord, my roof has sprung a leak. Don't you remember I told you about it way last week? Landlord, landlord, these steps is broken down. When you come up yourself, it's a wonder you don't fall down. $10 you say I owe you? $10 you say is due? Well, that's $10 more and I'll pay you till you fix this house up new. What? You gonna get eviction orders? You're gonna cut off my heat? You're gonna take my furniture and throw it in the street? Aha, you talking high and mighty, talk on till you get through. You ain't gonna be able to say a word if I land my fist on you. Police, police, come and get this man. He's trying to ruin the government and overturn the land. Copper's whistle, patrol bell, arrest. Precinct station, iron cell, headlines in press. Man threatens landlord. Tenant held, no bail. Judge gives Negro 90 days in county jail.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, I really wasn't quite sure how to begin this next part because it feels so huge. I'd like to recognize all our volunteers and leaders. I hold personally such a deep thanks for all of those who've made the work of Jonah happen this year. The magic of Jonah is that our reach is hard to determine. Our work goes out like ripples in the water. Where does Jonah start and end? From our partners, our elected officials who strive to make an impact on our concerns, to those we encounter struggling every day, and those who keep the very functions of Jonah running. Jonah is the Chippewa Valley. Yet we are also Wisconsin and Americans. Jonah stands for Joining Our Neighbors, Advancing Hope. I've had numerous conversations on hope with folks the last couple of years, as hope seems to dwindle some days for some of us. I saw recently on a friend's refrigerator another acronym for hope, helping one person every day. I think it's important we take time not only to reflect on what we've accomplished, but to redefine what that means, to be grateful and celebratory right now for the person we connected with, for the aha moments in the relationships we have, for the seeds that we planted and may never see what they grow into, but know that they're there. Measuring success can be a challenge in social justice work. It seems like some days we will never end hunger or racism or homelessness. But when I look around my screen here today, I see success. When I look at the size of Jonah and the money we've raised and the heart I hear in each of our conversations and feel a shift towards a better future together in our community, that is success. And we want to honor all of you. Please take a moment to put in the chat box how many years you have been connected with Jonah. No matter if you're a donor, a partner, a leader, or a volunteer, there's not one person in our room who has not contributed to Jonah's success. While you're doing that, I'd like to take time to specifically thank first our task force leaders, who none of our work in the community would be done without. Judy and Susan and Paul in affordable housing, Ray and Dave and Joyce in immigration, John for child poverty, Sue and Julie in the environment, Lacey and Kelly in criminal justice. Thank you. Thank you for organizing your groups and leading them and getting the work done. I would also like to take time to acknowledge our executive committee, our vice presidents, Andy and Mike, our co-secretaries, Joanne and Janine, and our treasurer, Pete. Thank you for your time and commitment. To all of our board members, I won't list all of them, but thank you for your time and your effort for being here. And I want to take one extra moment to thank Donna Raleigh for her daily reflections on our Facebook page. Thank you also to our fundraising committee, our leadership team, and our religious leaders. So take time and peruse through the chat and see the names and commitments of all the people here. 14 years and many more. Now let's offer a round of applause for you and for everyone here and for all we've done. Join me in saying thank you. Thank you for being Jonah. And now I'm going to try and wrap things up as quickly as we can, but this is one of my favorite annual activity, our yearbook. I love revealing our yearbook because so much effort and love and all that is Jonah goes into this book. We have 70+ ads this year, businesses and organizations who support us. That is community. A network of supporters that helped us raise over $10,000 this year through the book, which we give to everyone who wants to know anything about Jonah. This book would never be possible without the work of Jim Kaufman from Minuteman Press, a longtime Jonah friend. We value our partnership with Minuteman. And so now, here is the Jonah yearbook. Second. Well, I'll tell you where to find it first. So we will be printing copies of this, but right now it's virtual. You can find it virtually by going to the About Us page on our website and clicking on the book. And is it coming? First, I wanted to share with you our cover. The artwork on the cover is a local mural just finished by local artist Lori Chilifone, who is happy to contribute her work to the cover of our book. And then, hope you follow with me here. I think instead of bringing it up that way, I'll bring it up this way. Well, I don't need to, for the sake of time, I won't scroll through the yearbook anyway. But I wanted to share the cover with you, and now you know where to find it. There's a lot in there. We will be printing it, as I said. We have people ready to distribute paper versions. Piles will go to each congregation member, and you'll be able, like I said, to always find the PDF on our About page website. And we will also distribute the paper copies around the community. If you would like a copy mailed to you, or if you would like to pick one up or have it dropped off at your house, please email either me, well, you can email me, cvjonaorganizer@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat. So another round of applause for our yearbook, for all that goes into it, and you will be seeing more of it soon. The next thing I'd like to do is to talk about how we're doing financially in Jonah a little bit. Right now in Jonah, we're doing the best we've ever done financially, but I know some of us, I know I do, feel a little tension in using that wealth we have right now as far as we could, because we need to keep up this capacity in order to grow as far as we like. So not that we don't do enough already, but there's just always more to do and more people who want to get involved. Our biggest financial challenge every year, like most nonprofits, is overhead costs. My salary and our connection to Wisdom and our general bills are truly our most necessary costs. And we also now have a bookkeeper and part-time organizer and communications assistant to continue paying. This is the non-glamorous donation, but it's truly where our capacity lies as an organization to keep these things going. You can go to our website and click on the donation page or send a check whenever you want, but thank you for those who've contributed greatly to Jonah this year to help us continue doing well. Our general ask today is to consider becoming a sustaining member or consider legacy giving. We are also now able to accept cryptocurrency thanks to the generosity of Lloyd and Florence Shepard. Thank you to all our donors this year. And then very briefly, as I mentioned at the beginning, I would talk about Carrie Newcomer. Carrie Newcomer is a folk singer, very well known, who's coming to Eau Claire in a rare concert on November 6th to help raise more funds for Jonah. If you have not heard about that yet or have not gotten tickets, tickets are limited, and it does require either a COVID vaccination or proof of negative test to attend, but keep an eye out for that. We're going to be encouraging folks to attend that. You heard her music. It is wonderful. And we will now shift toward our candle ceremony. Jamie.
Yes, and as we begin our covenanting ceremony, I'd just like to remind everyone, as we know, we have a divine light within each of us, and that light is also in our faith communities. And when we join together, our lights shine brighter and they can be blazing with fire as we proclaim this message of hope and do this justice work in our communities. So with that, I will light the Jonah candle. If you have a candle at home that you'd also like to light, that would be wonderful. And we will read our member congregations, starting with our newest member, Trinity Lutheran. Eau Claire Friends, First Congregational UCC, First Presbyterian, Hope United Methodist, Emmanuel Lutheran, Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd, Newman Community, Spirit Lutheran, St. James Parish, St. John's Lutheran, Temple Shalom, Unitarian Universalist Congregation, Unity Christ Center, Grace Lutheran. And if you want to join me in singing This Little Light of Mine, you are welcome to. This little light of
mine,
I'm gonna
let it
shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
Thank you everyone for being here again today and for being part of Jonah. We celebrate a year's worth of work and many, many more. Have a blessed, blessed evening.